Welcome in, everyone. We've got a Bluebloods cross Jackrabbit Illustrated podcast tonight. Gonna go over I know a lot of people are into previews and stuff like that, but we got special edition planned. Timothy kicked this idea off to me. What was it, back in like February here?
Yeah.
What if we did just like a preseason show, kind of taught people like when you're looking at box score stats, like what's kind of important to you, and love the idea. So glad to have Timothy and Zach on tonight. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good, man. I appreciate you having both of us for sure.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this one. Anytime we can get into where I can apply my full nerdness
Right.
into like the obsessiveness that I get over trying to figure out like, okay, what's effective? What am I really looking for here? What works? What doesn't? What should I care about? And you can't always find people that are willing to get into that with you. So I'm excited, and hopefully we can do it in a way that's actually helpful and can help people. Like when it comes to the season, you can actually look at, hey, what's really working well for our team and what's not. So
yeah, right on. Before we get into it here, we're going to cross post this. So I'll get you guys the audio when we're done here, and you guys can post it on your channels if you want. We do have some, slides and stuff just because we're going to go full nerd on this tonight. Before we get into that, I got a couple bills to pay, and I'll let you guys do the same in kind then. But obviously this year, Jackrabbit Illustrated is glad to have Kubota Dealers of South Dakota back on board. Lawn, acreage, yard, even farm equipment. Get yourself some orange equipment, reliable. The guys in the South Dakota dealership know them personally. They're awesome to work with. I know my property's not quite big enough. I've got, quarter acre in town, if that. But Chad and Matt both have acreages, and they love their Kubotas. And then as all special editions are brought to you by this year, Northwestern Mutual, specifically Chris Kenkel in the Sioux Falls office. But obviously you guys have been involved a little bit too with the Alex's Lemonade Stand stuff that Kevin Marshall puts on. Because, who doesn't want to defeat childhood cancer? So thank you for support of Jackrabbit Illustrated and FCS football in general, Northwestern Mutual. So you guys got any bills you got to pay quick?
No, we're good, man. Not on this episode.
Sounds good. Well, without further ado, so this is statistics and analytics applied for the common fan. So I think we'll just kind of go through some of the stuff here, and we can talk to it, speaks to us, what we think is important, and we'll go from there. Timothy and I were talking before on, I don't know, this show might go 30 minutes. We might get nerded out and go on for 2 hours here. So we'll let it speak to us, and we'll go from here. So, wrong screen. What are analytics in the context of football, right? We always hear, if you watch TV, especially the high-level college or NFL games, analytics says this, analytics says that. So we should maybe try to define some of that, and people know what they're talking about when you hear it. So just kind of high overview, some of the stuff we'll cover on the show, what stats matter, what different advanced numbers mean. Obviously, there's the modern stuff. They always throw the fourth down model up on the screen. So we actually got some examples to work through there. And then rankings versus polls, what's the difference and what does each tell you? Anything you guys want to hit there for a high overview of what we want to go through tonight here?
yeah, I'd just say in general, there's different levels, right, of what you could consider analytics or an advanced stat. You can get really high level with, like, I know we're going to talk about like EPA and stuff like that. And when you apply it specifically to FCS football, there's not, we don't have the best availability, in some of these other, databases that the FBS has, or certainly the NFL. But you can also, we can look at, there are simpler things that we do have access to. You just got to know what to look for, right? And so I think just in general, like the biggest thing for me is I like that you put that there in the beginning, efficiency versus volume. Like the biggest thing to me is like, okay, are we really just going to look at, points per game and yards per game, or actually is that sometimes a little bit of not giving you the full picture, a little bit like deceive you into thinking a team is better than they actually are or worse than they actually are. And when we could actually look at things like yards per play and a few other, I think there's a few key areas that you can hone in on that do a little bit of a better job, even if you don't, sit on a spreadsheet like I do.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of build off off of what Timothy said too, is I think there's a big misconception too, because you do hear like the film versus analytics debate all the time. And I think something me and Timothy have really, really tried to push. I know Alex, you guys pushed it on y'all show, is like it's not like a chicken and the egg thing, like where one is like comes first or one's more important than the other. All these things, like where you really become dangerous in terms of like analyzing college football or just football at any level, is using these in conjunction.
Yeah,
You
they
should
work
watch
together.
the game, and it makes the analytics stronger because you have more context to the analytics. But if you just use analytics, you're missing a lot of context by not watching the game, and vice versa. If you just watch the game and have no stats and analytics, you're very, very like you're stuck in one lane in terms of how you can analyze and talk about the game. And I think it's something that you're seeing more common in media. I don't know how you guys feel, but it feels like more people in media are becoming well versed on both sides of the aisle instead of like having this thing where like these two things have to clash. You're either an analytics guy or a film guy, where I really think if you're going to be good in this new age of sports media, you got to be good at both.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to do it, right? Like I'm definitely not like just a numbers guy. Like I played football, I coached football for a while. That's what I want to be doing, really. If I could, I want to be out there on the field. I want to watch every game. But hey, listen, you can only take in so much when you're out there. And I think when you're watching it, it actually clues you into like the things that you need to go look for. So that's when then you can go and find those numbers that are actually going to mean something and actually matter and matter to these guys when they're doing their prep too. The different teams. And I think coaches appreciate that too. And when we have opportunities to speak with them and, they can tell that you actually kind of know what you're talking about. And you're not just saying, hey, great offense because you guys scored 40 points a game.
Brendan says we're not doing this like a PowerPoint. We are, Brendan. Sit down, classes in session. You might learn something.
Exactly. Whose eye test works the best? Everybody's
Ron makes a great point. Analytics, just to round out that point before we move on here. Analytics kind of rounds out the what is kind of strip some of the bias away, right? Like you got to be able to break down film. You got to be able to know what you're seeing. But that can kind of maybe take away some of your bias. So first thing we're going to talk about, because this will tie back into a lot of stuff, is success rate. I really like success rate personally. It's probably one of my favorite metrics. So just for the quick definition, and actually, Timothy, maybe I'll let you talk because you do your weekly success rate articles, and those are, if you're not checking those out on Sports or FCS Central and Sports Illustrated, you're missing out.
Yeah, so I kind of picked up on using this. There's a bunch of people that are, like I said, in the FBS, not so much FCS, but the idea here is that you're cutting through some of the noise in the game. Like what you want to look at is football is obviously a small sample sport, right? You only have usually 12 games, maybe a few playoff games. And within one game, results can be really skewed by things like turnovers, penalties, weird bounces of the ball, somebody missing a kick, all kinds of weird stuff like that. And what success rate does is it's a better determiner of future performance. And that's what I really wanted to get at is sometimes you get beat by 3 touchdowns and it's like, oh man, we weren't very good today. But if you go look at it, you can go look at the success rate and say, hey, actually we played a little bit better than the final score says, or vice versa. You kept it close, but really you shouldn't have. So that's why I use it. What it is specifically is you're taking out a lot of the noise, like I said, and you're looking at there's the definition there, but like how good are you down to down? It's just literally like, are you effective down to down? And that broadens the sample size and shows like, hey, are you consistently good over the course of a game? And the better teams are consistently good over the course of a game more often. So how the formula specifically works is you need 50% of your yards required to get a first down on first down for it to be a successful play, 70% on second down, and then 100% on third and fourth down. So on 1st and 10, in order to be a successful play, you got to get at least 5 yards. Second down, you got to get at least 70%. And then, of course, on third and fourth down, you got to get the first down or a touchdown. I think it's a better way of looking at stuff, like I said, because then I'm not just scrolling, because none of us have time to watch every game. Then I'm not just scrolling through ESPN saying, oh man, Rhode Island won by 30. They're the
20.
best team in the country, without actually, I can go look at success rate and say, they actually played better than that, or they played worse than that.
Yeah, and that's just kind of some of the examples here, like we talked about. So, like a 1st and 10 4-yard carry, it's technically a failure. There's a lot of coaches that would probably take that, especially maybe some of the old school ones, but kind of the advanced numbers would tell you that's actually a little bit of a failure there. 2nd and 8, 6-yard pass, that's a win. 1st and 5, bit deceiving. 2-yard pass maybe be chalked up as a failure, but 2nd and 3 is obviously a good down. And then 3rd and 2, 1-yard carry, probably a failure, but if you're in plus territory, maybe you're going to go for it. We'll get to some 4th down stuff later here. Zach, you got anything to add here?
No, I mean, I think Timothy explained it well. I mean, and I think I got more thoughts on some of the other ones. I think Timothy kind of covered it all right here.
Yeah. So the series conversion rate, which is, I really like success rate. This is probably my favorite. So series conversion rate is just, you've got a first down. What percentage of the time are you going to have another first down or a touchdown? Once again, like you said, Timothy, it's about taking away that play-to-play variability. It's looking at how consistent are you, both offensively and defensively. So just for some benchmark numbers, 73% is about average. If your offense is above that, it's pretty good. If your defense is below that, it's pretty good. Vice versa. If your offense is below that, it's bad. If your defense is above that, it's bad. And the larger the difference, we'll go through some numbers and stuff I put together in a minute here, but the larger your difference, the higher your expected margin of victory is going to be, which should not be a shock to anybody, really.
Yeah, I think both of these things do a great job of, and I like series conversion rate because you're specifically looking more at the outcomes there and what matters the most in the game, right? Which is scoring points. And so I think that you capture pretty much everything. Well, not everything. You capture a lot of what you're looking for when you want to look at like, what's the quality of how you played that week. There's a couple of things that when you're just looking at success rate or series conversion that you're leaving out a little bit, right? Like, for example, explosive plays. That's probably the biggest thing, right? And that's where you could get to, like, I know we'll mention EPA later, but explosive plays is kind of the great equalizer. Like, you cannot be great down to down, but if you're not going to be great down to down, you have to generate explosive plays consistently. That's not always as easy, especially if you don't have freaks on your team or a genius. Some of these guys that can just scheme stuff up wide open. Not very common, especially as you play tougher opponents. And so that's kind of another interesting thing is like, this is why we like football, right? Everybody has a different style. I would probably argue that your consistent efficiency, for example, your series conversion rate is going to be more reliable, especially in the playoffs, than a team that is always relying on explosive plays, because the better defenses you play, the more they're going to take those away.
You're going to keep stuff in front of you.
Exactly. I mean, you look at your most of the time your best defenses, right? Like Montana State last year. What do? They sit in that shell. They keep everything in front of them. STSU did a lot of too high shell stuff when they were really good, a couple years ago. Those teams are just going to know how to take away those big plays. And so can you churn out drives consistently, and can you finish more often than not?
Yeah, I think one of the and to kind of go back to an example, like I don't remember, I think it was the UC Davis game that Illinois State played in the playoffs. This was a big thing where like they really weren't great down to down, but remember they had that big Sofkowitz touchdown. Like they generated explosive plays at key times, and I think they did against NDSU too.
We'll get there a little bit, but that was the wildest thing about Illinois State's run last year. If you just look at the whole picture, like against UC Davis and NDSU, so their first 2 playoff games, right? Like they lived and died by explosives. I mean, that's the only way NDSU game. That is the only way you overcome 5 turnovers is you had 5+ huge plays of your own, right? But then on the flip side, like they had one of the most efficient games of the season of anybody in the national title game.
Yeah, crazy.
Offensively, at least. So it's like they weren't consistent, but just they had those playmakers. When they weren't consistent, they found a way.
It also helped you have Victor Dawson getting you 4 yards per carry on all 77 touches he had in like that 2-game span. Every single one. He was like, it was 4 yards, maybe 5 on like a handful. That was it. They just consistently churned it along. It was insane to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. And it speaks to the improbability, usually not the way that you're going to get it done. But yeah, that's why football's fun. But just the kind of last thing on this is like, there are, of course, other ways to keep yourself close in a game, right? Like turnovers, special team scores, defensive scores. But no matter what coach and programs tell you about how they're the best at creating turnovers and scoring on special teams, it's just, if you look at the data, that stuff is not reliable.
Against other good teams.
It's, well, for sure, yeah. And so much of it, like especially fumbles, like we know fumbles pretty much fully luck because you don't know where the ball's going to bounce and who gets the ball. Interceptions maybe a little bit less so, but even still, like a lot of that can come down to luck too, the bounce of a ball. And so that's where you want to look at, like, hey, if your team's consistently winning in those ways, it likely is not going to bear out as that sample size continues to get larger.
G6 Football 24/7 says you need to break down my poll. I think that's a pun, but funnily enough, I need to do mine tonight still. I still have not done my preseason poll, but we will talk about rankings and stuff at the end of the show here.
He's got USD one.
Yeah, right. So then just some other quick hitter definitions you might see here. So EPA, if you follow NFL stats a lot, that gets brought up constantly. So that's basically expected points added. So that's like, that tries to measure the swing of a game. Win percentage added is the same thing, just it's looking at win percent instead of points. We'll get into some of this other stuff when I threw some of your quarterback stuff in here. Timothy, you did this offseason. That was really good. But the ADOT, so depth of target, and grade. So that's kind of goes back to the film piece. You know, you hear that a lot in reference to PFF. That's someone watching the film and saying this percent of the time you did your job. You guys have anything to add on the quick hitters here?
I mean, EPA is a great stat because it tries to take what like a series conversion rate or a success rate would do and also incorporate explosive plays and field position. But I have yet to find a manageable way to translate that to FCS. So we're just
even FBS. I mean, it's like really NFL specific.
I was about to say it's just NFL, and everyone who watches NFL knows about. Like I feel like EPA is high level, but everyone kind of knows about it.
Yeah,
watch NFL.
It's more mainstream. Yeah, for sure. It's a great stat. I wish we could use it more often, but not for us. Also, I think college has a little bit more variance, so I'm not sure that that's probably why you don't get as good a data. But anyway.
So just to highlight here, which numbers tell us who's going to win a game? We'll look at some. I've got some correlation charts coming up here. But as we talked about at the start, you want to look at your bulk versus efficiency stat, and we'll get into a second here. But what predicts who's going to win a matchup? It's the old adage: you got to run the ball and control the clock, right?
I have one quick. Can I throw in one quick example of the whole volume versus efficiency? So this came up big for me. It was actually, funny enough, USD in 2023. Not their really good year, but the year they were pretty good. I think they went 10-3. And a lot of people were talking about how, well, they're really good defensively and their offense isn't very good. And so I think that kind of matched, and you look at the box scores, but when you kind of dug into it, that was a team that, and this is what throws people off, is nobody plays at the same tempo. And so that's why the idea of efficiency becomes a thing, because if there's a team that plays really slowly and plays in a lot of low possession games, it doesn't look like their offense is very good because they don't have the yards per game and the points per game that other teams have. And yet that year, if you went and looked at something as simple as yards per play, South Dakota had one of the best offenses in the country. Now, conversely, their defense was thought of as being really good, but a lot of that was they just weren't playing all that many possessions. So, yeah, of course, they weren't giving up very many points because their offense was holding on to the ball. And if you look at actually down-to-down efficiency, their defense was not all that good that year. In fact, they weren't all that good defensively. They were fine, but they were actually better offensively. And that's just one example. You could find a few more like that. And that's why you can kind of get clued in by looking at style of play. I'll go conversely, you had some of your Southland teams that put up, a few years ago, 1 billion points per game. And it's like, wow, these offenses are incredible. Well, part of the problem is they were playing a rapid tempo against other teams that were playing a rapid tempo. So, of course, they put up 700 yards per game. As soon as you get put into a game that's lower possession and you're made to grind stuff out, all of a sudden the offense just doesn't look good. And it's like, oh, I thought these guys were the best offense in the country. So, well, not really. They just had 1 million chances per game.
Yeah, and also, I don't remember if you said that. I don't know if you said it this time, because me and you have talked about this on our show, is when those possessions get decreased in one of those slugfests, scoring on those drives becomes so much more important. And that's where you get exposed for, I'm sure we'll talk about it later, red zone touchdown percentage is way more important than just overall red zone efficiency, where you throw field goals in there with it too, is because if you're used to getting 10 possessions in a game and you only get 5, if you remember, and this game wasn't even competitive. But it's an example. You remember that Montana State Mercyhurst game where everyone was what in the hell happened? But they only had 5 possessions in that game. That
they
game
scored on
was
all of them,
every single possession. So it was if they had 5 more drives, they would have scored 70 points, but it's they only had a certain amount. And so scoring in those moments becomes so much bigger.
Yeah, the final score was 40. Perfect example was 40 something to 20 something. But like you said, Zach, Montana State scored on almost every possession, and Mercyhurst stole a special team score. So it was wasn't actually that close, but.
No. Yeah. And so I think that's what you also see the difference in, and we're relating this back to actual film watching too, so people kind of get the point that they can relate, is that's why you hear playoff football is different, because the odds of you getting that many drives in a playoff game where the teams are so evenly matched is very low. And you see a lot of those teams that rely on high possession, high volume, that bulk versus the efficiency is not very good. And so G6 football, it was 17-0 Montana State in that Mercyhurst game. And everyone was 17 points, but they scored on every possession they had.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good example.
All right. Well, does controlling the clock and running the ball win you football games? So
you're gonna offend some Midwest people.
I am right in my backyard here, but and I'll get to it in a second, but I heard the Oklahoma State head coach say something yesterday on Twitter. I was like, I get it. You probably know way more about how to scheme up an offense than I would ever know. But how do you have that opinion as a Power 4 head coach? But anyhow, we'll get there. So time of possession versus expected margin of victory. As you can see, if you're, know anything about statistic analysis, our correlation's actually not that strong here. My R squared didn't translate here on this chart, but I've got it open on my other screen. So it's 0.09. So that, there's some correlation there, but it's not like you could use this as a strong predictor sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of depends, right? Like it goes to Zach's point. Like, what are you doing with your possession?
Yeah, because if you remember, another example, a good example of why this isn't going to correlate. If you guys are, and I got a bunch of examples for all these stats. I made sure to go and do my research so we had like real examples. Is
Sure.
Jackson State Grambling 2 years ago, and Timothy remembers this one where
Oh,
Grambling
yeah.
beat Jackson like 40 something to 20 something, and Jackson had the ball the entire game. But the problem is Grambling just kept scoring off of turnovers. And when the Jackson would turn the football over, they'd have the ball on like the 20-yard line. And so they put up 40 points and only had like 190 yards total offense, Alex. And Jackson puts up like 500 yards of total offense, has the ball all game, going up and down the field. And every time they got in position, they would turn the football over.
Was that one of the primetime years?
No, that was 2024. That was actually the year Jackson won the Celebration Bowl.
That was the year they won it all.
Yeah. Because that was when they were still rotating quarterbacks. And so like that's a prime example of like time of possession. Yes, if you're dominating the game and moving the football and not turning the football over and scoring when you get in the red zone, yeah, it probably correlates pretty well. But if you're turning the football over and chewing up clock and not being efficient with your drives, then it won't correlate very well.
Yeah, that's where like actual either red zone efficiency or your third down efficiency matters a whole lot more than your time of possession.
So moving on, starting to get better correlation here, but we're not as strong as some other signals we're going to see here. We've got rushing offense. So this is just bulk yards per game versus your expected margin of victory. Yeah, I mean, basically, actually, this might be rushing defense. Now I'm looking at it, I think I mislabeled it because, we're going more yards you have, the worse you're performing. So actually, I think this is rushing defense. I mislabeled it. My bad. But, is it important to stop the run? Yes, but it's not going to be as important as some of the other things we're looking at coming up here. So, this is rushing offense. So, stronger signal, but still, not a super tight grouping around that trend line. Once again, this is kind of, we'll get to it kind of when we get to some of our summary slides here and maybe what a certain Power 4 coach that I alluded to, but teams have more bulk rushing yards when they are better because they're trying to kill clock at the end of the game. It's not necessarily because you need to get a magical number of carries or yards to win a football game.
Yeah. No, that's where like, again, it has a lot more to do with like situational stuff, but it's a great point. Like once you already get out to the lead, then you start to run the ball more and so can running the ball be an effective way to win a game? Yeah, in certain scenarios. But it certainly can't be the only thing that you do. And it's not the only way to get it done.
Yeah.
So next, does defense win championships? Once again, we're getting tighter, but we're still not as good as some of the other things we're going to see here. This is total yards per game versus margin of victory. So naturally, the fewer yards you give up, the better you're going to do. But that goes back to some of the conversation we just had, right? Like shorter versus longer games, stuff like that. Like that can kind of skew some of this data.
So this is true in pretty much every team sport, at least that I'm aware of. You to be elite, you have to be good defensively, but the elite level offense is always going to trump the elite defense. Like you have to be. It is like in order to get into the party, you have to have a certain level of defense. But then once you get there, you got to be able to score. And it's because all of our games are points based, right? Like you have to be able to put points on the board, and that at the end of the day is going to matter more than anything. Pretty simple when you think about it, but
yeah. I mean, because you can even, if we even extend this, like, I mean, if we take it out the FCS realm, the NFL, you look at all the Super Bowl champions, there are a lot more elite offenses that have won Super Bowls than elite defenses that have won Super Bowls.
Yep.
And just to clarify that, Zach, I didn't say at the start. So all this data is the last 3 years of FCS data. So this is
cool.
The plot of every team in the FCS over the last 3 years. So, this is pulling numbers out of thin air, but this is 2023 SDSU. This is 2025 Montana State, So each team is in here 3 times. So there's trying to do what's 130 times 3, quick math. 350 to 400 data points in each of these. So it's pretty good sample size. I had something I was going to add there, but I forgot because I wanted to bring that up when Zach said it. So if I remember it, we'll come back to it. But so for this one, I wanted to kind of try to find a way to quantify, like, okay, who's winning in the trenches? And obviously in college football, we count sacks as rushing yards. So this is
terrible.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Did we
make
ever get
sense.
that overturned? Who do we need to talk to? Who has the power?
But when you're trying to quantify something like who's winning the battle in the trenches, I figured net rushing yards per game then becomes a pretty good way to do that. And, that kind of does start to correlate better than just straight defensive numbers. I kind of found that interesting. I don't have anything profound to add to that necessarily.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So then we get to exactly like you and now remember what I was going to say now. What you and Zach were talking about, Timothy, is you get total offense. So once again, yards per game versus expected margin of victory. And the other thing, obviously you said our games are points-based. The other thing that's true in most sports, especially football, is the offense knows what they're doing and the defense is having to react to that.
Yeah.
So if you are better at knowing what you're doing, it's the nature of the game. You're going to win that one-on-one, whether it's a receiver on the outside or a tackle in a pass set versus a defense doing run to pass rush transition.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So here's where we start to get some of the efficiency stats. So look how much tighter that grouping instantly gets when we go to net yards per play. So this is your yards per play offense minus your yards per play defense versus your expected margin of victory. And now we're looking at something with, an R squared of 83%. And you can see how tight that's starting to fit to that curve there.
Yeah, and I think this is great because yards per play is a stat that you can pretty much find wherever. And so I would encourage people to look at yards per play because that's going to be easily accessible. That's going to give you, not always, but going to give you a pretty decent picture of what's going on because there's a little bit of efficiency in there. There's an incorporation of some explosive playability. And then also, like, is your team limiting negative plays as well? I mean, you mentioned sacks earlier because that gets into it as well. So it's certainly not a perfect stat, and it's not maybe as good as some of the other stuff later, but it's a pretty good one if you want to say like, hey, what really happened in this game? You can quickly pull up yards per play. And if the team that lost averaged way more yards per play, you can start to ask the question of like, okay, well, what really happened in this game? And a great example of this, I think, was, well, I'd have to go back and look at the actual data. I just remember the NDSU Illinois State game last year. A lot of NDSU's end offensive stats at the end were skewed because of the one touchdown that they had.
The Bryce Lance.
Yeah. And then if you take that out, they average like 2 yards per play, which is, I mean, horrendous. We should probably talk more about like the epic failure of NDSU's offense in that game last year. People should be bringing that up more often.
But don't worry, Nathan Hayes is a pro prospect. Just ask someone up there. Sorry, we don't talk about that team anymore.
But
despite him playing one good half against a Southern Illinois team that was all third strings and then shitting the bed in the playoffs last year. But
you guys aren't salty at all.
no.
But all that being said, my overall point is I would encourage people to go check out Yards Per Play. It's a good place to start.
Just want to address Ron's comments here. He said R-squared could not tell if a model is biased, spot outlier distortions or nonlinear patterns, and isn't a good accuracy for new data. So what do we need for sample size? So Ron, that is true if you're like using this predictive model here, this the slope equation. That is a true statement, but we're just using the R-squared to look at goodness of fit, truthfully. So that's basically what we're just using it as, is a higher number shows a better goodness of fit. We're not necessarily talking about using these as models at this point in time. And as far as sample size, like I said, it's 350 some odd teams over the last 3 years. So that's a pretty broad sample size. It's pretty good sample size. Without doxing myself more than I need to, but I work for a very large publicly traded company. And some of our stuff for like process validation stuff, like our minimum sample size is 30 if the process band is tight enough. So like 350 is a pretty good and distribution here. So to move to series conversion rates, the last one we'll look at, and it really starts to get tight in here. So like we talked about, series conversion rate kind of misses some of the explosives, but it does still filter out some of the noise of if you have one big explosive versus yards per play is what this would tell you. And this is not easily findable. I actually designed a spreadsheet to calculate this. This is where I got this data from. So my goal is I'm going to at least, for anyone here, I'm going to at least keep this updated for the entire valley all year. But I'll see how difficult it is to maybe do it for the entire subdivision as well.
Yeah, no, it just shows obviously between all of that, like now we're getting closer to looking at like, hey, what actually matters. And at the end of the day, what actually matters is like, how good are you down to down? That's generally going to demonstrate who the actual good teams are by the end of the season.
Yep.
So to sum up, which numbers truly tell you who's going to win a game? So to get to what I heard, like I said, I forget his name already. He's in the Mike Leach tree. That was part of why they asked the question. The Oklahoma State head coach, they said, you've gone from more of the air raid to more of a traditional pro-style offense, and why is that? And it just made my skin crawl. But he's like, I went back and looked at Alabama and Indiana and whatever other good teams in the FBS the last few years. And he goes, they all average at least 150 yards rushing per game, so we need to get to that. It's like they average that because they're leading late in the game. So it's a bit tongue-in-cheek, but I put in here, if someone says Team A wins X percent of their games when they rush for X number of yards, you can immediately disregard their opinion. And it's probably a little too harsh, but it's one of those things where it's like, are you looking at causation versus correlation? As we've been talking about, efficiency is key. Efficiency matters. And like we talked about, offense is a slightly better overall predictor of performance. You guys have anything to add before we kind of move off stats here to some situational stuff?
No, I'm good. I think we covered it.
So from here, we'll get into how do we use data to determine game decision-making. So 4th down and 2-point models are largely based upon these efficiency numbers. When you see those on TV, those are based upon some of the stuff we've been talking about, like we've already talked about a little bit. Your overall aggression and clock management. You can use these numbers as you're a coach. Obviously, you're not going to look at the numbers if you're a head coach and say, oh, we're 10% series conversion rate net worse than the other team. We're playing to cover the spread this week. Like, no, you're going to make a game plan to win the football game, right? But that tells you maybe want to play actually a lower possession game to increase the variance. Maybe you need to call some more shot plays to steal some big plays like we talked about. Drop something on special teams. That's how my opinion, coaches can use this data. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Go ahead, Timothy.
Okay. No, yeah. So pretty basic, right? Like if like you should be aware, and coaches are, they'll say whatever they say to the media, but they generally have a pretty good idea of who their team is and who they're playing against, especially as we get further in the year. And yeah, if you're playing somebody who is objectively better than you or more talented than you, it is in your best interest to play a higher variance game. And what that means is like, hey, can you dial up that one shot play? Great. That one shot play is going to mean a whole lot more in a game that is at lower possession, right? So if that one shot play is in a game with only 8 possessions, that's going to mean a whole lot. If that one shot play happens in a game where there's 16 possessions, it doesn't really mean all that much. And so that's where, like, can you win? Can you steal things in the margins? Can you find a way to slow the game down? Can you find a way? That's where if you can get a turnover in that situation, then your turnover means a whole lot more. And that's when you can see some of these upsets actually happen. I must just have USD on the brain, but like when USD beat NDSU a couple of years ago, that's exactly what they did. They won defensively in the red zone, and they shortened the game. And were they better? Probably not, but they were able to then go and steal the game. And so, yes, Kevin, that's why it matters, because coaches use it to actually win games.
That's why you have the like nerdy looking guy following Lane Kiffin up and down the sideline with a book, like scrolling to like find the pages of like what the odds are for certain. Because do you guys remember when like that was so insane to watch on like ESPN couldn't fathom it. And they had this random dude following Lane Kiffin up and down the sidelines at Ole Miss, flipping through like a notebook.
So when he was at Ole Miss.
Yeah, like they'd be like on their own 35 and the dude be flipping the pages and they're like, is he really going to go for this? And then, like, I think the best example might have been last year in the national championship. Like, Timothy knows how I feel about this. Like, at the end of the day, I don't know exactly what the data would say in that. Thank you. Okay, I didn't even. And four people watching, I have not seen the PowerPoint. Alex did not show me any. Like, bro, this is insane that they didn't go for this, in my opinion.
Let's get into it.
Yeah. So this was probably, I had a couple other examples. You know, Kevin and I have talked at large about UND going for it in Wagriz. Was that the right call or not?
Oh yeah.
Love Coach Jackson to death. Gotten it home personally a little bit the last couple of years. That first quarter where they went for him like 4th and 5 against Youngstown. So I think they were feeling hot. And to their credit, if not for a great play by the Youngstown D lineman where he knocked the ball down in the air, Bullock was open. It was probably a big play. But like, and obviously they won the game still, but like you didn't need to do that. But yeah, let's get into it. This is the most talked about one of the year. So 4th and 1 from the plus 21, tie ball game, minute 40 left. National title game. You're Brock Spack. What should you be doing here? So 4th down models, like we talked about, you see them on TV. So 4th down models pull all this data, your series conversion rate, your 4th down odds on the year, your red zone efficiency, your field goal accuracy. And that's what, before we get too deep in this, that's what makes this decision so unique, was it is late in the 4th quarter of a national title game. You are never going to have more data points than you have in this moment. Like, this is the most possible data you could have to make this decision, which is kind of fun. And also, ironically, makes the math easier. But basically, you use all those numbers and you calculate what each path is going to lead you to here. You guys have anything to add to that before we maybe get into the path slides here?
No, I need to see the path.
Other than most teams have some kind of book, right? Like at this point, like, and some teams are going to be more into the analytic stuff than others.
My gripe, and we'll get to some 2-point charts, but with the book, it's just, oh yeah, 4th and 2 at the plus 40, that's a go, and it's like it's not always that simple.
So when I say book, they should have their own that they've made based on their data.
They should, but I would
They
tell
should.
you based upon what. So I know Coach Stig's the analytics guy. He is a buddy of mine's buddy, so a friend of a friend. He was a grad student at the time. And he literally just wanted it that simple. Stig did not want like
Fair
the
enough.
advanced numbers. He just wanted like, yep, plus 40, 4th and 2. What am I doing sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And so a lot of that's gonna be determined by your head coach, right? Like, what is he more of an old school guy or not? But yeah, a lot of teams I know will have a specific book for them for that opponent that week that they'll make, and they'll know going into the game, hey, in this situation we're doing this, in this situation we're doing that. But then again, you get into the game and that can throw you for a loop when you start to get emotional and start to try to figure out what's going on. It's tough, man.
Yep.
So what should SPAC do? It's 4th and 1 for the plus 21, minute 40 to play, tie game. So like I kind of talked about, it's an end of the game scenario. So we actually have a ton of data. What Illinois State has on offense, they were series conversion rate of almost 88%. When they were on defense, they were around 79%. So both offenses played great in that game, but Illinois State was actually playing a little bit better. The other relevant stat, their kickers are combined 62% on the year. Not great. Montana State, ironically enough, kickers also only 62% of the year. Kind of wild. Kind of some bad kicking to be that far. Maybe goes to show special teams doesn't always – special teams, separate tangent. Special teams doesn't matter till it does.
I was going to say till it does, yeah.
It's, don't give up turnovers, get 5 yards on a punt return. Life's good.
The long snapper throws it over your punter's head 6 times against Montana State.
With your Weaver, yeah.
Their kickers have approximate range of 50 yards. Their offensive 4th down rate on the year has been 66%. Montana's defensive 4th down rate's been 55%. Illinois State's red zone touchdown rate 74%. Montana State's defensive red zone touchdown rate's about 69%. So this is really how these work. So we'll start with what happens if you go first. So, what can happen if you go for it? There's roughly, you get these numbers by averaging the 4th down odds of the two teams. And you can even get more granular. You can go 4th and short since it was a 4th and 1. But yes, it's a 60% chance they get it, 40% chance they don't. Well, what happens if they get it? Well, they can score a touchdown on the drive and kick a field goal with no time left. And that's a 62% make, 38% miss. If they fail, 61% they get a stop. And I should highlight, so green, that means that end result, you win the football game. Yellow means that end result, you're going to overtime. Red, that end result, you lose the football game. So you get stopped. There's a 19% chance you stop Montana State in field goal range, or there's a 62% chance they make it, 38% chance they fail, and there's a 20% chance they score on their ensuing drive. You add all this up, you stack the odds. If you go for it, 70.4% chance to win the game.
And go through this last one first.
No, I just say you kick the field goal, 62% chance you make it, 38% chance you miss, and then you have the same options. You get a stop. Montana State kicks a field goal. Do they make it or miss it? Does Montana State score a touchdown? You add all these back, you're only 65.25% chance to win the game. But still, decent odds. You're looking at essentially, by averaging those, you're looking at 68% chance to win the football game right now.
Before you made a decision.
Painful for any Redbird fans to hear probably, but.
So I would just say too, because you mentioned you could narrow it down by 4th and short. If you do that, that takes, like if you go back.
This number's probably higher.
Way high. Yeah, I think it's probably significantly higher, which means that maybe we get closer to like 75% chance that you win the game. Yeah, I mean, Zach, you, if I remember right, you thought he should have went for it, right?
Yes, 1,000%.
I mean, and the data kind of backs that up.
I mean, and listen, even outside of the data, just guys, I mean, like, even if you took let's take the external context into account here. You are the significant underdog with all the momentum. I mean, everything from late third quarter onward was all Illinois State. Montana State was on its heels defensively. You have a running back that for 6 straight weeks. I don't know if he had a run that lost yards in 6 consecutive. You've proven you can do this. And then I think the biggest data point that matters, and Kevin kind of put it in the chat, is it doesn't really matter how close you were in this point. Your special teams unit has been inconsistent all year long. What has been the most consistent part of the team? It was Tommy Rittenhouse delivering in clutch moments. And you're you were fourth. Even if you wanted to throw it, you have a guy who literally could not be stopped in one-on-one matchups on the outside that you could trust. Dylan Lord was having a career game.
They're going to load the box.
Yeah.
You got Sopkowitz one-on-one.
Timothy went down the field, but me and him were talking afterwards, and I was talking to Fred on the field because we were down there in that end zone, and I was like, every single time Montana State didn't put a safety over the top of Sopkowitz, they threw it to him and he caught it every single time, including the touchdown, right? Because they moved the safety back over, and he just bombed on the kid that I think the kid's at Indiana now. The kid he just destroyed in the end zone. It's it felt like there was no reason to put a risk, especially if your special teams unit was more consistent. I get it. And you had an elite kicker. Your kicker was inconsistent. Your special teams has been inconsistent all year. It just felt like it was a no-brainer in my situation. But again, we talk about the pressure and all that of the moment. I do wonder if this wasn't the national championship game, does he make a different decision?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, if you're in, Carbondale, big game, still a tough place to play, but he probably doesn't think twice about it, to your point, Zach.
Knowing Brock's back too, historically, definitely not.
Can I give you, before we do the other one, there's actually one other scenario in this game situation that not a lot of people talked about. So if you guys remember, Illinois State scores to tie the game. Where was it? How much time was left? They scored with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And they tie the game up. To me, that was a time, and most people are not going to necessarily think this. To me, that was the time to go for 2 right then. Here's why. You have to stop Montana State to win the game anyway. Yeah. If Montana State goes down and kicks a field goal, they win the game. If they go down and score a touchdown, they win the game. And so if you go for it and you don't get the 2-point conversion, nothing changes. You still had to get the stop. You still got to march down and go score anyway. If you do get it, you put yourself in a great opportunity to win the game. I know that wasn't one I heard a lot of people talking about. That's a little bit more out of the box, but I think
we'll get to some of that here.
Well, I don't think it's out of the box though, because he did it against NDSU.
That's true.
Well, that's true. He forgot about that.
He made that exact decision 2 weeks before.
It's just because it was more time in the game, but I think the scenario ends up playing out the same. You had to get the stop no matter what. So why not give yourself a chance to get the lead? And by the way, could you imagine if they would have went for 2 and got the lead? How stunned that sideline would have been, the stadium would have been. I mean, talk about changing momentum. I mean, that would have zapped the energy out of the stadium. And if you remember, I think Montana State's next possession was terrible anyway. And then you could have got the ball back. You could have got the ball back and ran it out, and you wouldn't have had to worry about whether or not to kick the field goal or go.
You remember after they blocked the field goal, that was the bad snap, right? Where they snapped it over Lance's head and lost a ton of yards on that play.
Yeah. That was the drive right after.
Yeah. So anyway, that's one that was not as talked about, but I thought they really blew it a little bit on that one.
So then same thing. We'll talk about the 2-point play here, but yeah, I kind of forgot about that, Timothy. That was a great point. But a lot of the times these 2-point decisions, and we'll get into like the 2-point table after this. But 2-point decisions, they kind of play out the same way. So similar thing, if you go for it, 2-point data is kind of hard because for whatever reason, teams don't track it very well. I think it's partially because they don't attempt a lot a year.
Yeah, too small. Yeah.
There's an interesting thing, kind of a side tangent. Maybe this fits better in end slide, so I'll save it. But so yeah, there's similar thing. 42% chance you get it, 58% chance you fail. The big thing to your point here, Timothy, a stop wins the game. No matter what. And obviously they almost got the stop. They had the 4th and 10. Montana State converted to basically win the game. But it's 58% chance if you go for it. And it's 68% chance if you kick the extra point. Kind of funny, national average on extra point, just to show kind of the kicking woes of Illinois State last year. Not to kick Redbird fans while they're down. But national extra point average hovers around like 98.5%, and they were like, I rounded up, I think. This was like 96.8% actually for their field goal, or excuse me, their extra point last year. So that unit was kind of just a mess for Illinois State last year. But anyhow, probably should have kicked it instead of going for 2. Kind of interesting, but if you're the better 2-point team, it makes sense to go. Maybe, I don't even remember what play they ran. Maybe they thought they had something drawn up that they hadn't shown on film yet, and they had it. Kind of just one of them deals.
Yeah, it's tough.
So anyhow, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I do think in general, especially with the new overtime rules, because overtime puts a weird thing into this too, right? And
yeah, there's a weird emphasis on 2-point conversions now.
Yeah. So if you're the second team in overtime and you are, let's just say, the underdog, to make it easy, you should pretty much always go for 2, because a lot of teams have like 1 or 2 2-point plays that they love. It's like, don't give the other team a chance to essentially play roulette with them. Just go and win the game. It becomes more complicated when you're the first team, obviously, because then you're giving yourself an opportunity to get a stop, and that's where that decision becomes difficult. I don't remember what my reaction was that night, but I don't think I can kill you for taking the PAT in the first overtime when you scored first.
Yeah, because then because like you mentioned, I like the fact, even though they didn't get it, I still like the decision by Austin Peay in that Tarleton game to end the season, where they
should have won it. Yeah,
they put it in Parsons' hands and just say, "Go get us a score." And he missed the throw, and that's fine. But the dude was wide open. If he puts it on the money,
yeah, it was the right decision.
Yeah. Like they're in the playoffs if they make that throw.
Yeah. Yep.
So this is just a quick hitter here, when to go for 2. So this is the old school chart a lot of people go by, and it's just basic math, right? It's like, does going for 2 gain you a possession arithmetically, right? So like, for example, if you're trailing by 10 after a score, well, this is wrong. It's kind of funny. But yeah, you should go for 2 to make it a 1-score game, right? It's just very basic. Whereas I forget where I stole this from. I should probably have cited that. But this was a study someone actually did. So this is based upon how many possessions you have left in the game and the scoring differential. And so that tells you, based upon the odds of how many more times you're going to score, green means it's a go situation. Red means it's not. And it was kind of funny. They put this in here. They've got these lose and wins. It basically means the game's over at this point, so it doesn't really matter. And then the white ones here are kind of toss-ups.
Is that on the top minutes left in the game?
Number of expected offensive possessions left.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of small. It's hard to read.
Yeah. That's cool though.
I just thought that was interesting because obviously everyone has their preferences. There's nothing necessarily wrong with this, but obviously I personally like this a lot better. And kind of to back up some of your data, Timothy, right? Like if you're down more than 2 scores, kind of see how green it gets in a hurry, and there's a lot of possessions left, go for it. You might steal a possession like by cutting a 10-score lead to a 7-score, a 10-point deficit to an 8-point deficit, somewhere in that math there.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yep, I think coaches should be more willing to do it, especially in certain situations.
And then this is just a quick quarterback chart. I think you already posted this somewhere, Timothy, but it shows some of the advanced stats. People can grab your Twitter if they want that. I know we're trying to wrap up here. And then the last one here, ratings versus kind of polls. And obviously that's a big thing preseason this year. So if you have a rating right, that's like Massey, Sager, and FPI, SP plus Collie. That's usually some sort of computer algorithm that says like, and they're actually better, ironically enough, because obviously the data set, they're better for past performance than they are indicating future performance. But they still often do a lot better job than maybe some of the human polls do. Obviously, these are the 4 big polls we have in the FCS space. We got the stats poll, the coaches poll, which isn't very good because usually GAs who don't watch the games voting on that. Then we got the red shirts poll and the FCS Nation poll.
They would never.
Right.
Are you serious? Come on. The coaches would never do that.
Hey, better than someone not knowing the difference between Rhode Island and Presbyterian, but you know.
Yeah, who would? He might have gone to bed. He was in the chat earlier though, but
I saw that and I legitimately thought he was just trolling everyone.
Like, he was just channeling his inner Coach Steve, man.
There you go.
Oh, no comment.
He said only. He said I saw he was pissed about the recent poll. He said only 2 Ivy League schools, and I'm like, only 2? Where? Who else are we? Who else are we adding to this?
Like, he didn't see the Villanova game last year.
He blocked me at some point last year, so I can't even see his stuff anymore unless I search his profile, which I have no strong desire to do. But I think he's like one of the only people in the FCS space to block me. Like, I'm sure there's some USD and NDSU fans that pissed off at some point, but none of them have blocked me. So.
Listen, I like everybody in the space, even the people I disagree with a lot of the time. He's the one person I just like. I can't even act like we're cool.
No, this is yeah.
Also, we have to stop. Like, and this is a thing. Like, I said it on our YouTube, our YouTube show with Coach Fred. Stop saying that. Like, if one person puts a thing together, it's not a poll. We have to stop. Yeah. Like. It's a ranking.
You got to have at least
it's 10 to 20 people at that point. If there's only one person that puts together the top 25, it's not a poll. It's a ranking.
I'm polling
myself.
My brain.
Yeah, like I hate when people do that. Like I saw, I know Stan does his all his stuff, but like everyone in the HBCU space says, "Oh, the NCAA ranking," and I'm like, "No, that's just Stan Becton. That's just Stan's opinion. That's not
don't
the
get me
NCAA."
Wrong, Stan's a good dude, but.
Yeah, but even Stan would say that's not a poll. That's just Stan Becton's rankings, and he writes for NCAA.com. So we have to. I think sometimes we get caught up in that too. Is you have to have at least a handful of voters to be a poll.
Yeah, for sure. And I think polls, when you get polls versus ratings, you're getting into the conversation that we always have around playoffs. Is it the best teams or is it the most deserving? Polls, I think, often, especially as we get to the end of the year, are going to be more of a reflection of who are the most deserving, what have they accomplished during the year. Whereas a rating is not going to care about that at all. It's just looking at strength, what is the quality of your team. And that's why you can find say Indiana State goes 3-9, but they're competitive in some of the Valley games. They're going to have a good rating. It's going to say that
60 in their ratings.
Yeah. Whereas you're they're terrible. They're 3-9. It's well, and there's I think a lot of truth in that, and it's good to keep in perspective because it's like, oh, what if you plop them into the OVC or whatever? That's probably a top 3 team in the OVC. That's just a hypothetical.
That's crazy. OVC fans pissed right now.
Right.
I think we're good. I guess we don't know, but hey, listen, Murray State, they can attest to that. All right.
Yeah, I mean, what they won like the OVC, like
2 years
2018,
before they joined the MPFC.
Yeah, literally point made for me. You'd be offended.
Well, I think that's all I got. You guys got anything else to wrap us up here?
No, I think we're good. We even got a little conference hate there at the end. Like it was a complete episode.
Who else do we want to go after? What other
who do we want to piss off yet tonight? The night's young.
Go after the Big Sky.
Well,
they get after
thank you guys. Thank you guys much. I appreciate it. This was fun. So
yeah, no, thanks you, man. Thanks for putting that together. That was fun.
Yeah, appreciate you having us, man.
Yeah. And with that, well, I won't do a normal sign off since you guys are posting it, I guess. We'll see you guys later.